Uber drivers, what is your best story as a driver? What is your worst/scariest story? Story 1. Very first fare. It was January in West Michigan. I had just bought a new car, and it was rear-wheel drive. 3 people got in my car. 1 was very drunk. When I dropped them off at their place, the other 2 can't get the hammered one inside. So I get out of my car, and firemen carry him into the house, all while the other 2 are laughing their ass off and Snapchatting me. When I go to leave, my car is stuck in the snowbank, and I can't get out. Luckily, the other 2 offered to help me out and pushed my car out of the snowbank, and I drove off. I got a 5-star rating out of that whole mess, so it's all Jude. Story 2. I am an Uber Black driver. A few months back, I picked up a man and woman in their 40s from a restaurant. They were clearly not having a good time, still arguing about something. Towards the end of the ride, he punches her in the face as hard as he could. When we pull up at the destination, he pulls out a knife and starts to threaten her and me. I tell him to take it outside, and I drive away. I couldn't help but feel bad for that woman, so I drove to the county sheriff department and told them what happened. Luckily, the Uber Black cars have a camera inside that recorded the events. When the sheriff looked at the video, he asked for the address, and they arrested the guy. I also reported the incident to Uber. They called me and took a recorded statement by phone. Story 3. Again, not a driver, but I had this really cool experience with one. We had just gone to an event with my college graduating class, and it was absolutely pouring. We were in an area of the city that we weren't really familiar with, so when the Uber driver was calling us and telling us where he was, we just couldn't see him. We weren't really on the street, and were taking cover under a roof, so we had some trouble making out the intersections. A minute passes, and we get a call from the driver asking us where we are as he's trying to find us. As we explain, we start to hear his voice getting louder as we see a man with a jacket running towards us. The man undoubtedly knew it was us calling, and without any hesitation, this man throws his rain jacket on one of the girls and just takes us running to his car. Pretty cool, dude. 5 stars right there. Story 4. After a night of partying, my friend decided she wanted to get her nipples pierced. She did, and experienced what I'm pretty sure is the worst pain of her life thus far. We had a 1 a.m. curfew on the ship we were staying on, long story. So we decided to get an Uber back to the ship, as one was fast approaching, and my friend was crying. The whole ride back, she's doing her best not to cry while continually telling our driver, "Don't get your nipples pierced. Don't let anyone you love get their nipples pierced. Don't ever let your enemies get their nipples pierced. Just don't do it." Meanwhile, we make it back to where the ship docked, but the gate closes at 10 p.m. We had no idea how to get around the city or where we'd be able to get on the ship. Thankfully, our driver was able to figure it out and somehow got us back on time. It was a weird night. Story 5. Around 2 a.m., I picked up 3 people that seemed to be late 40s-ish, 2 guys and a lady, all quite drunk. The destination is less than 10 minutes away, but the moment they climb in the car, the 2 in the back seat, the lady and one of the guys, get really hostile. She's drunkenly threatening to punch him in the face while the guy in the front seat eggs her on, and the guy in the back seat keeps half yelling that he is chill. Super chill. It wasn't too difficult to figure out that the source of the conflict was that he was interested in getting with her, and she wasn't having any of it. Sort of. As I'm beginning to consider pulling over and having them get out for fear that a real fight is about to break out in my back seat, the guy in the front seat suddenly changes his tone and starts suggesting that they all should be friends. His plan for patching things up consisted of her showing them her breast. It took her about 15 seconds to decide that it was a solid plan, and happily presented her pleasure pillows for their peeping pleasure. She was seated behind me. I didn't bother sneaking a peek. I suspect I didn't miss much. It culminated with the guys touching her breast in a manner reminiscent of a pair of 8-year-olds petting a hedgehog. We arrived at their destination, another bar. A couple minutes later, they got 5 stars. Story 6. Lyft driver. It's a Friday night, and I picked up a couple from a bar. A girl was crawling into the car drunk, and her boyfriend was like, "Babe, babe, babe, get inside the Lyft." "Oh hey, what's up bro?" to me. "Babe." After she spilled into the backseat, I asked where they were headed. The bro tells me the address. I assume it's his apartment. Spoiler: the night's not over, it's another bar. I was parked in a bike lane on a busy one-way street, and I turned on the car and looked in the rear view to see if I was clear to merge left into the one-way. In my mirror, I see a fountain of vomit spewing into traffic coming from my backseat. Then a black Prius pulls into the bike lane right in front of me. It's the car that my currently unconscious passenger just threw up on, and I see the driver get out and go around to check out the side that was thrown up on. I'm expecting him to have pulled over to confront me, so I'm already expecting him to chew me out. I get out and start apologizing and explain I am a Lyft driver. Turns out he was a Lyft driver too, and he was actually picking up a passenger from the same bar we were in front of. Sure enough, effing Brad comes out of the bar, very drunk, and yells at the other Lyft driver, "Are you Derek? You look like the guy in this little picture." He tried showing poor Derek the profile picture. Derek says, "Hey man, I just got puke on my car. I got to head home and wash it off. Sorry I can't give you a ride." This is when I felt like I was in a fetting sitcom episode. The guy in my backseat, he can be called Chad, had been staring at his phone in my backseat, avoiding everyone, but now he gets out of the car and yells something like, "Who's this effing chode lover?" Brad yells, "What the F are you doing here?" I was at 4th Street with Kelsey. No effing way. I was in there too. Has she passed out? Of course she effing is. This bitch better wake up. We're heading to Myth. No effing way. I was heading to Myth for Rachel's birthday shit. What the F, man? That's why I was going too. Now I am driving Chad, Brad, and Kelsey a few blocks to Myth, while Mice Direct goes home to hose puke of his Prius. I have the loudest conversation I've ever had with these two bros, who are actually super nice, and find out that they are housemates and hadn't talked about going to the same exact party on this Friday night. Then I find out that Chad asked Brad to be his best man only a month ago after Chad and Kelsey got engaged. So how do two bras living in rooms across from each other, obviously spend a lot of time together, probably responded going to the same Facebook event, and should be the ones getting married, end up not knowing that they were both going to a mutual friend's B-Day bash with bottle service at a very posh bar? Beats me. Oh yeah, Kelsey woke up when the car stopped and went into the bar with near-perfect coordination. Girl just needed a puke and nap. Story 7. I had a lot of stories, 5,000 plus rides, but it would be too long to give details on all of them. Here's a few. The time I picked up porn star Marina Angel. The night where I picked up a stripper from Echo Park and had a very old hooker walk up to the car near Deja Vu on Main. The afternoon where I found a chameleon crossing the street in Burbank and rescued him. All he ever wanted to do was climb. I gave him to a reptile breeder in East Hollywood. 2 straight girls making out in the backseat after a drunken night, discussing details on where this goes from here with each other. One of my first nights, I picked up an 18-year-old girl from Hollywood and took her downtown. She kept hitting on me and told me about how her friends would always get guys to pay off bouncers to get them into clubs. Recently picked up pro skater Paul Rodriguez in the Valley. Turns out we grew up in the same area. Took a guy from downtown LA to downtown San Diego. Passenger in South Central was using me for drug runs. 99% of the time people aren't worth remembering. Story 8. I've been a driver for 2 months. I started just after they were given permission to operate in my area. I like how most of my packs are appreciative that I'm driving them home. I work the drunk hours as they pay the best in my market. I haven't had any scary or bad packs, but one funny one sticks out. I picked up these two drunk girls at a bar and was about halfway to their house when the one girl asked how I liked driving for Uber. I told her it's been good so far and that I wish more people knew about the service. I said, "Spread the word." And the girl replied, half slurring her words, "I'll spread the word, then spread my legs. Do you have a girlfriend?" I laughed pretty hard and informed her I was married. Her friend apologized on her behalf, and that was the end of that. I get a kick out of how many packs call me Uber driver. Excitedly. Uber driver, turn up the volume. Uber driver, I love you. Uber driver, turn here. Turn here. I use Google Maps for navigation, but if they want me to take a longer route, I'm not arguing. My wife's cousin last night asked me if I carry anything for protection, or if I'm ever scared that someone might try and carjack me while I'm driving them to their destination. I replied, half joking, half serious, that since almost none of my packs ever put on their seatbelts, I'd just floor it and crash into a parked car. Fun times. Story 9. A while ago, I picked up a group of Armenian guys in a shady part of town. They reeked of cigarettes and booze. When I picked them up, they had a really negative attitude towards me. I can't really explain it, but they weren't nice at all. It didn't help that they were all huge compared to me, tatted up, and in a group of 4 people in my car. Whenever I drive, I always assume the worst is going to happen. You always get some jackwagon trying to drink booze in your car, someone throwing up, a junkie doing drugs in the back, or some D threatening you. I hated it, but I was always prepared for the worst since I drove late at night. In this situation, however, I had a gut feeling that I was going to get my car taken and my ass kicked by these guys. When they got in the car, I asked for the main guy's destination. This was before they had navigation included in the app, and he wouldn't say. He just said, "I'll just give you directions, don't worry about it." I hated it when people did that. It always made me uneasy. I feel like they could be leading me to a destination they see fitting to kick my ass. So the entire drive, they were talking in Armenian, and they kept hinting at something towards me. I could see one of the guys pointing his finger at me while they conversed. It just felt extremely shady. We finally get close to our destination, and it's a low-lit alley behind a very sketchy-looking neighborhood. It looked like a very industrial area. I had no idea where I was because I had my phone with the map closed since he was giving me directions. I thought this was the end of the road. I was about to get my ass beat by these 4 huge dudes. Turns out it was just the alley entrance to one of the guy's houses, and we were dropping him off. After that, the main guy gave me directions again and told me he was an Uber driver. Wish he would have said that in the beginning. I know this story is anticlimactic, but it just shows you never know who is stepping into your car when you pick someone up. I also picked up a porn star who said she just got done filming with that guy who had the $1 million insurance on his pee. She was interesting. Really sweet girl offered to buy me a drink. People have puked in my car, done heroin in the backseat, smoked someone's joint from another car stopped next to us. Really effing annoying job. So glad I've moved on. Story 10. I was taking a cab back from a drunken night of karaoke with a few friends. My friend was up in the front seat talking to the driver. The driver asks my friend, "So have you guys been drinking?" My friend says we have. The driver responds, "Me too." Didn't find out this conversation took place until after we arrived at our destination. The same friend talking to the driver once took an Uber home by himself, completely plastered. He ended up puking all over himself in the car, but neither he nor the driver acknowledged it. He lived in the suburbs, and once the driver dropped him off, he realized he was at the completely wrong address, several miles from his house with no public transportation. So he calls another Uber, but then realizes it's the same guy coming to pick him up and immediately cancels it. He had to wait 15 minutes in a stranger's front yard, covered in his own vomit, for the driver to get far enough away so he could call a different Uber. He later got a $150 charge from the driver for the cost of cleaning the puke out.